Helena Blavatsky was called a fraud, a witch, a prophetess, and a conspirator. But what almost nobody knows is that the fiercest attacks were not against what she said in public, they were against what she revealed in secret. And in this video, you are going to uncover the 5 secret teachings from behind the scenes of Theosophy, the teachings she shared only with initiates. These ideas were so deep and so dangerous for the science and religions of her time that they had to be buried, distorted, or ridiculed so they would never reach the public. In this video, you will not hear what is written in history books. You will enter the forbidden cosmogony of the Secret Doctrine, the hermetic cycles of humanity, the multidimensional vision of the human being, and the boldest teaching of Blavatsky, the concept of unity, powerful enough to transform your reality. Prepare yourself, because this is the part the world tried to silence, and that now rises again to the surface. Imagine you are watching a movie, and for some reason, you can only see half of the screen. You see the scenes, but you cannot grasp the full storyline. Everything looks disconnected, without a clear explanation. Now, imagine someone hands you the original script, and you finally see that every scene was connected from the beginning, that nothing was random, and that everything followed an invisible order. This is the first secret teaching, the forbidden cosmogony of the Secret Doctrine. This is how Blavatsky said we live. We see only fragments of reality, like spectators with no access to the script that sustains the universe. The Secret Doctrine would be that script, revealing that the cosmos was not born out of chance, but out of a consciousness that manifests in interdependent cycles and planes. Blavatsky said that the fundamental error of humanity is to believe that everything began with matter. In her book, The Secret Doctrine, she literally writes, "The universe is worked and guided from within outward. As the spirit shapes its bodies, so does the One mold the cosmos." For her, creation always arises first on invisible levels, in subtle planes, before condensing into matter. Nothing physical is the first cause. Everything begins as cosmic thought. This vision echoes Vedic traditions, the Kabbalah and Hermeticism. The visible is only the tip of the iceberg of something vast, living and intelligent, that pulses beneath the surface. In Hermeticism, the foundation of this idea appears with total clarity. The Kybalion literally states, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." This sentence is not a metaphor. It is an ontological description of the cosmos. Hermeticism teaches that everything that exists is thought of the all in different densities. Blavatsky agrees and expands this idea, saying in her book, Isis Unveiled, "Matter is spirit at its lowest point of manifestation." This is one of her most audacious claims. There is no matter that is separate from consciousness. What we call the physical world is only solidified consciousness. To explain this structure, Blavatsky describes the primordial emanation, an absolute consciousness that differentiates itself into successive layers until it forms worlds, planes, and forms. In The Secret Doctrine, she writes, "Everything in the cosmos is consciousness in different degrees of awakening." This vision eliminates the idea of a dead and mechanical universe. It is a living cosmology. Every atom vibrates because there is an intelligent principle animating the structure of reality. And here the Hermetic correspondence appears. As above, so below. As within, so without. The whole creation is a mirror of the vibrational state of the consciousness that originates it. If the universe is mental and guided from within outward, as Blavatsky affirms, what does this say about what you are living now? Are the situations that repeat themselves truly external, or are they internal projections you have not yet perceived? What you call destiny may be an old frequency manifesting in a new form. What if the crisis you are going through is not a punishment, but a faithful reflection of a pattern you yourself keep alive? What if your reality is screaming for you to see what you created without noticing? What would your life look like if you started acting on the cause and not on the effect? Blavatsky said there is no chance in the cosmos. Everything follows cycles, emanations and rhythms that link the human microcosm to the universal macrocosm. If that invisible structure truly directs reality, then nothing in your life is as random as it appears. No repetition is accidental, no coincidence is meaningless, no encounter is trivial. If there is a mental cosmogony behind the universe, there is also an internal cosmology guiding your own journey. You are either living a cycle or trapped inside it. But the deeper question is this: if the universe is born from consciousness and moves in waves, does humanity also breathe in secret cycles that shape ages, civilizations, and destinies? Could the apparent chaos of the world today be only part of a larger cosmic tide that always returns? And more important, if there are cycles that govern the universe, are there also cycles that govern your life? Now we enter the most forbidden part of Blavatsky's teachings: the Hermetic cycles of humanity and the revelation of the root races. This explains why certain phases of your life return like waves you do not know how to stop. But before we continue, if this kind of knowledge resonates with you, liking this video and subscribing to the channel is not just a gesture of support, it is a command to the algorithm itself. It is you programming your digital reality to keep receiving content that expands your consciousness. Do this now, and the universe and the algorithm will understand that you are ready for the next level. Imagine you are looking at the ocean. The waves advance, retreat, withdraw, and return with renewed strength. It does not matter what you do. You cannot stop the movement. You can pretend it is not there, but the tides continue to exist. Now think of your own life. Have you noticed how certain patterns return in waves? Moments of expansion and enthusiasm are followed by periods of retreat and crisis. Repeated situations, similar people, challenges that come back as if they were calling you to a specific lesson. Just as the sea has its rhythm, Blavatsky said that humanity as a whole breathes in gigantic cycles that shape our spiritual evolution. This is the second secret teaching: the Hermetic cycles of humanity, the secret breath of consciousness. In the Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky literally writes, "Life advances in waves, each one carrying humanity to a higher or deeper stage. For her, there is no linear progress. Evolution unfolds in spirals. Humanity is born, grows, matures, declines, and is reborn through cycles called root races, which have nothing to do with ethnicity, but with states of consciousness." Blavatsky states, "Each race is a stage of the human soul in its eternal march." In other words, they are not separate peoples, but different versions of the same human consciousness. This vision echoes directly the law of rhythm, literally declared in the Kybalion. Everything flows in and out, everything has its tides, everything rises and falls. Hermeticism affirms that the entire universe pulses in oscillations. Nothing remains fixed. Everything breathes. And if the macrocosm moves in waves, the human microcosm also vibrates in rhythms. Blavatsky confirms this when she writes in Isis Unveiled, "Civilizations rise and fall like pulsations of the great heart of the world." For her, human eras are not historical accidents, but deep tides of the universal mind. Blavatsky said that every human being lives smaller versions of these same cosmic cycles. She writes, "Man is the reflection of greater cycles and repeats within himself the march of the ages." This means that phases of expansion and contraction in your life are not personal failures. They are natural resonances of the universal rhythm. Your moments of chaos are not punishments. They are inner tides asking for change. Your periods of clarity are not luck. They are ascending waves of consciousness. When you see this, you realize that life is not against you. It is moving you. If everything moves in cycles, what you are living now is not the end. It is a phase. It is not failure. It is transition. How many times have you called a low tide a defeat, when in truth it was only the sea pulling back to gather force for the next wave? How many times have you despaired on the way down, without realizing that every descent prepares the impulse of the rise? What if the chaos you face today is exactly the movement needed to take you to a higher level of consciousness? What if the pattern that repeats is only the universe showing you that you are still in the same inner cycle, Blavatsky said that only those who learn to identify where they are in the cycle awaken. Those who confuse low tide with destiny never mature spiritually. Those who try to cling to the high wave lose the fluidity of evolution. And those who fight against the repetitions suffer far more than necessary. The whole of life is a dance between expansion and withdrawal, between birth and dissolution, between light and shadow. The question is, are you flowing with the rhythm or being dragged by it? But there is an even deeper and more forgotten part of these cycles. Blavatsky said that every consciousness, individual or collective, creates and attracts its own effects, that nothing returns to the wrong door, that every repetition is simply the signature of your own vibrational field. This leads us to one of the most powerful and most misunderstood ideas of Theosophy, the law of karma as a mechanism of balance and awakening. We are going to talk about this now, and you will understand why nothing in your life is random and how the cause you ignore is creating exactly the effects you live. Imagine you throw a stone into a lake. The ripples spread, touch the shore, and come back to you, always in perfect circles. You can try to ignore the movement, but nothing changes the fact that it returns to the point of origin. Now think of your decisions, the emotions you nurture, and the words you release into the world. Each of them is a stone thrown into the lake of existence. You may forget the gesture, but the gesture never forgets you. Blavatsky said that karma is exactly this, not punishment, but the natural return of the waves you yourself create. This is the third secret teaching, the law of karma, the invisible architecture of the universe. In The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky literally writes, "Karma is the eternal law of adjustment, the eternal harmonizing of universal equilibrium." And in Isis Unveiled, she reinforces, "There is no injustice in the universe. Every action returns to its sender as an educating force." For her, karma is not divine punishment. It is a pedagogical mechanism of consciousness. Every thought, choice, or feeling generates a consequence that is neither good nor bad. It is simply correspondent. Karma returns exactly what you send out, not because of morality, but through vibrational resonance. Hermeticism confirms this vision. The Kybalion literally declares, "Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Nothing happens by chance." This sentence concentrates one of the deepest laws of the universe. There are no coincidences. There is no isolated event. There is no bad luck. Just as Blavatsky says in The Secret Doctrine that man reaps what he himself has sown in each consequent cycle of his existence, Hermeticism says that every effect is only the signature of the original vibration that generated it. Blavatsky said that karma is not an enemy, it is a teacher. In The Secret Doctrine, she writes, "Karma follows man as his shadow, not to persecute him but to guide him toward the light." This means that everything that returns to you today is information. These are signals from your own vibration, showing where there is harmony and where there is imbalance. Every difficult encounter, every emotional repetition, every obstacle is an opportunity for alignment. According to Hermeticism, this is pure correspondence. The universe responds to what is inside. The external is only the echo of the internal. If every effect has a cause, which cause are you repeating without realizing it? Which emotion is creating the waves you are experiencing today? How many times have you called injustice what was only return? How many times have you felt like a victim of something that was generated by an old vibration you still maintain? And what if everything that hurts you now is a coded message asking you to change the origin of those waves? Because karma is not about what the world does to you. It is about what you do to the world, even in silence. Blavatsky said that karma does not act only on the physical body. It works on every level of the being. She writes, "Man is composed of multiple layers, and karma touches each one according to its nature." This means that what you think creates one kind of karma. What you feel creates another. What you vibrate creates yet another layer. Hermeticism confirms this when it affirms that vibration is the force that moves all planes. So the real question is not why karma exists, but on which level of your own consciousness you are creating the effects you live. If there are multiple levels of being and each one vibrates at its own frequency, then each layer of you responds in a different way to the universal laws. And here lies the key that few people understand. You are not living only one life. You are living many at the same time, in multiple bodies, multiple planes, and multiple vibrations. Now we enter Blavatsky's most daring teaching, the multidimensional nature of the human being and how each of your bodies silently shapes your material reality. Imagine you are listening to a song, but your headphones are damaged and only play the lowest frequency. You hear the beat, but you do not hear the melody or the subtle details that give life to the music. The song exists in full, but you only perceive a small part of it. Blavatsky said that this is exactly how we live. The human being has layers and frequencies that coexist, but most people only notice the densest plane, the physical one. The other 6 planes continue to act, influencing thoughts, emotions, and experiences, even when you are not aware of them. This is the 4th secret teaching, the multidimensional being, and the 7 planes of consciousness that shape your life. In the Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky literally states, "Man is a septenary being. Each of his principles acts on a corresponding plane of existence." She describes the human as composed of physical body, etheric body, astral body, mental body, Buddhic body, atmic body, and a divine principle that permeates them all. And she completes, consciousness operates through the vehicle that responds to its vibration at that moment. This means that your decisions are not born only from the rational mind, but from the astral body, from the emotions, from the energetic field, from the soul, and from subtle levels you rarely access consciously. Hermeticism echoes this teaching directly. The Kybalion literally says, "Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates," and it affirms that each plane of reality vibrates at a distinct frequency. What Blavatsky calls bodies, Hermes Trismegistus calls planes. What Blavatsky calls consciousness operating on different levels, Hermes describes as vibrational gradations within a single universal mind. The correspondence is so clear that Blavatsky writes in Isis Unveiled, "Man is the microcosm that reflects every plane of the macrocosm." If you live only on the physical plane, everything seems material, heavy, difficult. But if your emotions are in turbulence, it is the astral body that is creating waves. If your thoughts are disordered, it is the mental plane that is distorted. If your intuition is blocked, the Buddhic body is silent. Blavatsky states, "Each principle of man creates its own form of karma." In other words, you do not create reality with only one body, but with all of them, and each one of those bodies emits frequencies that interact with the universe. The question is, which one is in charge of your life right now? How many decisions have you made thinking they were rational, when in truth, they were emotional reactions from the astral plane? How many relationships have you sabotaged believing it was intuition, when it was only a trauma vibrating in the mental body? How many financial crises appeared because your energetic field was out of alignment long before matter showed the effect? And what if all the repetitions in your life are signs that the same body is always taking control? The change you are looking for is not in the physical world, but on a plane you never learned to access consciously. For Blavatsky, spiritual evolution begins when the human being stops living trapped in the physical body and learns to operate consciously on the other planes. She writes, "True initiation is the deliberate transfer of consciousness to higher planes. This means that awakening is not only about thinking differently, it is about vibrating differently. It is changing the plane on which your consciousness operates." Hermeticism confirms this when it says that the wise one is the one who transmutes lower vibrations into higher vibrations. And here we arrive at Blavatsky's boldest point. If you have multiple bodies, multiple planes, and multiple vibrations acting at the same time, then what exactly are you? What is the principle that unifies all this? Blavatsky said that there is a divine spark in the center of the human being, a core that does not change and does not fragment, the part she called the luminous higher self. And this is the idea that most disturbed religions and scientists. Prepare yourself. We are going into her most forbidden teaching. The affirmation that the human being is the living link between the divine and matter, a God in formation. And understanding this changes everything. Imagine a lit candle in a dark room. The flame is small, but it illuminates everything around it. Now imagine that this flame is not outside, but inside, alive in the center of your chest. Even if you cover the light with your hands, even if the wind tries to put it out, even if you ignore it, it keeps burning. This is the fifth secret teaching, the link between the divine and matter and the unity of all. Blavatsky said that the human being carries exactly this flame, a spark of divine nature that cannot be destroyed and that tries to manifest through your thoughts, choices, and vibrations. Most people live without ever noticing it, but it is the core of true spiritual evolution. In The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky literally writes, "Man is God within, and only through the understanding of this spark can he ascend." In another passage, she declares, "The higher self is the fragment of the Absolute. It is not born, does not die, and does not change." For Blavatsky, this spark is the most sacred principle of the human being, the eternal nucleus that crosses lives, bodies, and planes. Everything you live is the attempt of this inner light to express itself in the material world, even through the limits of the ego and personality. Hermeticism presents this same idea using a different language. The Kybalion literally states, "Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle." This does not refer to sex, but to the creative process of the universe. The masculine principle is the idea. The feminine principle is the manifestation. Blavatsky describes the divine spark as the spiritual masculine principle that must act through matter, the feminine principle, to create reality. She writes in Isis Unveiled, "Matter is the womb of spirit, and spirit is the highest form of matter. Creation happens when both unite." For Blavatsky, the human being is not simply an observer of the universe, but its co-creator. She states, "The human soul is the mediator between the divine and the earthly. This means that you are literally the point where the invisible becomes visible, where vibrations become matter, where consciousness becomes experience. When you think, feel, or decide, you are not just reacting to the world, you are shaping the world." Hermeticism calls this mental transmutation. Blavatsky calls it the awakening of the divine spark. The name changes, the process is the same. Reality bends to the vibration of your essence. If there is a divine spark inside you, why do you still live as if you were smaller than your circumstances? Who convinced you that you are a victim of the waves of life when you are the center that generates them? How many times have you made yourself smaller in order to fit into patterns that were never yours? How many times have you ignored this inner light? Calling weak intuition, what was your own higher consciousness trying to guide you? What if the emptiness you feel is not lack of something external, but the call of this spark asking you to wake up to who you really are? Blavatsky says it very clearly, the goal of the human soul is union with its divine essence. The Kybalion affirms the same in another way. He who masters himself becomes master on all planes. Together, both traditions reveal the same truth. You are not a limited being trying to reach the spiritual. You are a spiritual being temporarily limited by body and mind. Evolution is not upward, it is inward. It is the conscious return to the origin of the divine spark that has always been there. But there is a deep and unavoidable consequence of this teaching. If you are a living link between the divine and matter, then everything you suffer, everything you repeat, and everything you fear is not a sentence, but a temporary state of your consciousness. The question Blavatsky leaves echoing is simple and devastating. What would you do if you fully remembered the light you carry? We have reached the point where everything meets. The mental cosmogony, the universal cycles, karma as balance, the multiple planes of consciousness, and the divine spark that inhabits every human being. Blavatsky's journey was not about mystery for the sake of mystery. It was about reminding the world that nothing we live is disconnected. Everything is part of a great spiritual map that manifests within and outside of us. She did not want you to believe in her. She wanted you to remember yourself. And she wanted you to see that life as a whole is a gradual awakening to what you already are. Blavatsky affirmed that the human being lives asleep to his own nature. In her words, man has forgotten his divine origin and lives as a prisoner of his senses. Everything she wrote, taught, and faced had a single purpose: to remove the veil that separates the visible from the invisible, to show that what you call chance is only the part of the storyline you still do not understand, and to reveal that consciousness is the key to everything, not to create a new doctrine, but to restore the ancient wisdom that has crossed civilizations and ages. That is why her most important sentence needs to appear here, at the end of this video, Blavatsky declared. Our work, therefore, is a plea for the recognition of the Hermetic philosophy, the ancient and universal wisdom religion, as the only possible key to the absolute in science and theology. This is Theosophy in its essence, not dogma, not blind faith, not submission, but a return to the primary source of knowledge, the same source that Hermes Trismegistus called the universal mind, the same that the Vedas called Brahman, the same that every tradition tried to name without ever exhausting. Hermeticism confirms this vision, the Kybalion states. Hermetic doctrines are the master key to the secret teachings of all ages. When Blavatsky studied Tibetan manuscripts, Egyptian ruins, and Vedic texts, she was not searching for spiritual diversity. She was seeking unity, seeking the root, seeking the point where all traditions meet. And she found exactly what Hermes Trismegistus had already said millennia before. The all is mind, the universe is vibration, man is the living reflection of this great intelligence. And what does this mean for you today? It means that you are not lost, you are not broken, you are not late. You are simply at a specific point of a greater cycle that repeats itself to teach you. It means that the chaos you face is not an ending, but a beginning. It means that the pain that returns is not punishment, but compass. It means that every repetition in your life points to a part of you that has not yet awakened. And it means, above all, that there is something in you that cannot be destroyed, erased, or silenced. The spark that Blavatsky tried to remind the world of. Her true mission was not to write books or found societies. It was to restore the spiritual memory of humanity. In her words, man is not a body with a soul. He is a soul that uses bodies. When you understand this, everything changes. Your gaze changes. Life changes. The way you interpret your crises changes. Because you realize that you are not here to merely survive. You are here to remember. To remember what you have always been. To remember what you still are. To remember what you can never cease to be. The spark that breathes through you. What would you do if you truly remembered who you are? If you remembered the divine spark? If you remembered the cycles? If you remembered the universal mind that vibrates through you? How would your life, your mind, your choices, and your destiny change? Declare it in the comments. I remember. And activate this new level of consciousness within you. If you want to go beyond theory and apply these principles in your daily life, especially in your financial and material reality, the ebook, The Key to Prosperity, is available at a special launch price. The link is in the pinned comment. And if this video touched your consciousness, like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who also feels this call. The journey does not end here. It only awakens. Watch the video in the card and go deeper into the teachings of Helena Blavatsky. The next video may answer questions that have been echoing in your mind. Until the next initiatory encounter on the path of Hermetic wisdom.